welcome to Tech Doctors, the podcast where we examine the latest technology news from a deeply engineering centric perspective. I'm Mike Ali, who, along with fellow tech doctorate Greg Martin and our MBA buddy Rob Haywood, thank you for joining our discussion. We will work hard to separate facts from opinion and hype from reality. We hope that you'll find our podcast informative and fun, so let's get started. All right, welcome to the 2026 edition of Tech Doctors, first episode of the season. We have Greg Martin, my fellow tech doctor here. We're missing Rob Haywood. He's playing hooky today, so you just got the two of us.
How you been, man?
Yeah, good. The AI world is a bubbling, and the robot taxi world and the robot world, humanoid robot world. A lot of stuff going on. I think we have what we'll call a target-rich environment for a discussion this year. So we're going to talk first about this article. Waymo robotaxi hits child near Santa Monica Elementary School, 5 years old or something, elementary school child. Fortunately, she wasn't hurt, right?
Right.
She kind of bounced back up. The car was moving very slowly, or relatively slowly. So the child seems to be okay, but I think everyone's rattled, right, by this.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, I've said this before, that I think a really, really good question is who asked the leaders of the tech industry to reinvent humanity? Who asked for that? I want to know where that demand came from. I think it came out of maybe some drugs and some imagination, because it's certainly not what humanity needs. We don't need automatic human beings. Human beings need assistance with things that are difficult for human beings to do. And we've been on this path for a long time. And we're on a trajectory where soon we'll be able to do a lot of the things that people don't want to do. But if you try to do it as a human being, you're going to get into trouble. So with that backdrop, the first thing that comes out of this issue of the child getting bumped by the car is the obvious thing that we do every time is, well, what would have happened if a human had been driving? So first of all, a kid ran out from behind an SUV. Someone should be asking what's going on with the parent that has a kid in a situation where they could jet out like that. But as soon as you asked, as a parent, you remember the time when you couldn't protect the little they're so fast, man. But it's a valid
go down that path.
Huh?
Yeah. Right.
That comes up. The next thing that comes up is well, Waymo said it. They said, by our benchmarks, if a human had been in the driver's seat, they would have slowed from 17 miles per hour to 13 or whatever.
Reaction time would have been longer. The car would have
and we slowed down to 6 miles per hour, and therefore you're actually safer for the child.
The reaction time was as fast as the LiDAR, can go, I guess, basically.
And now I'm bothered again because I feel like it is part of this John
Henry.
John Henry.
Yeah.
We are fascinated with that story.
Yeah.
And we build it into every discussion we have about technology without realizing. So once again, we're asking, what would happen if John had come with the hammer? Would he have saved the child? And we hope John would have been better than the machine, and we get disappointed when the machine wins again. The issue is John shouldn't have been battling a fucking steam engine. It's not a fair fight. It's a story. What's he going to battle next? TNT? This idea that the benchmark for the world that we're trying to create with technology has to be I'm better than the human was, we have to get rid of this. We have to be three orders of magnitude better than humanity was. And we shouldn't be doing it as a human. We should be doing a specific task that technology enhances, and we should perfect that task. That's how we approach manufacturing. I hate that a humanoid is the goal, and therefore the human is the benchmark.
I think you're right. I don't think Waymo is going to get away with we did better than a human who wouldn't have been paying attention in the same circumstances. Because this goes to my point, right? I'm like, if I understand the setup here right now, all we have is this one article, and it does, as much detail as the article had in it. But this was during the drop-off time at the school. There's crossing guards. There were plenty of witnesses. There were crowds of kids. There was a crossing guard. There were parents moving in and out. Now, I know, when you're in that environment, you are creeping along. You're not going 17 miles an hour. You're not going 10. And you're on high alert because especially if you're dropping off a little kid and you're around a bunch of other little kids in elementary school, those kids are liable to do any damn thing. And whenever you see an SUV that's double parked, right? That something can appear. So that's the part that the car, right, the autonomous vehicle doesn't have any conception of that. It doesn't know about, oh, this is a drop off time at the school. It just knows it's in a school zone. It's been told to go at this speed. And hey, we'll count on your reaction time to do the right thing, which, as we know, in this case, you'd argue it wasn't enough. But these AI tools will never. They don't have any conception of context. They don't have a world model. They don't know anything about this. So, to me, these kinds of cases are frightening because they're inevitable. And they'll argue that maybe it's an edge case or something crazy like that. Because what they're really saying is this is a case that requires something that our tool doesn't have: an awareness of its environment, a history, cause and effect, a model of what the world is like and what you should be anticipating. Everybody agrees that Waymo is ahead of everyone in this area, and they still got issues. So everyone knows Elon, his taxis are way behind. I think there's one or two other companies, but everybody agrees. And Waymo, they hung their hat on, no one's doing this more carefully than us. No one's thinking more about safety than us. We're wringing our hands, and I mean, I admire their response. I mean, they said this isn't good. We're going to work with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, right? We're going to be figuring out what happened here. So
Now,
great.
I'm glad to hear you say that because they stand in contrast to some of the other folks that we've attacked.
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, they deny it. They probably blame the kid, right? Oh man, what can you do
Yeah,
with
yeah.
it? So yeah, no, I agree. All right, so let's talk about Article 2, which was a study on measuring the impact of early 2025 AI on experienced open source developer productivity. And this was a real study, right, where they had 16 experienced programmers who were working in a repository of code. They do mainly bug fixes, right? And so they had these programmers basically pull up different what do you call them? The
TRs.
tickets. Yeah, the tickets, right? To say, okay, here's the work, and then for or randomly they would say, okay, this work you can do with AI
Yep.
support. This work you have to do by yourself. And they said, well, tell us what, and before you start, tell us if you think the AI would make a difference, and if so, by how much. And then we'll measure, right? And we'll see how you did coming out the back end. And
And
so
how and also they measured how well you think you did, which was the most interesting part of
right.
it.
Yeah. They said, how well do you think you're going to do? And we'll measure. And lo and behold, all the developers said AI will definitely make me 20% more efficient at doing this work. That's kind of the average. When they actually did the measurements, they found out that AI actually made them almost 20% worse at doing the work. So that's a 40-point swing, not just a 20-point swing, it's a
But
40
but
point.
even after they had finished the task, they said, "So how'd that go?" They said, "Oh, it was great. AI helped me by at least 20%."
Yeah. Before and after they said, oh, this thing definitely, you're better off using AI. I will point out back to your point though, about 10x. I mean, 20% isn't that exciting for all the trillions of dollars that we're putting into these tools. I'm saying, no one, when Sam Altman went down this path, again, it was replacing people. This AI will do the work of the programmer. They didn't start with this work will basically make your programmers 20% more efficient. And that means out of five programmers, you can get rid of maybe one. Right? I mean,
Mhm.
no, nobody was throwing that around as the business case.
You're
But
right.
it's interesting that that's where they are now. The other thing I'll add, and then I'll toss it over to you, is that they did put. It was a really nice study because they put a lot of caveats on it. Right? They're saying, look, we're not trying to say that all tools. This doesn't apply to every case. We're saying it applied to this case that we analyzed. We don't have a real good explanation for why these machines or these AI code generators do better on benchmarks than people do. We're not going to try and claim that programmers don't often. There isn't some set of programmers out there who may be getting productivity benefits. They didn't try to say this is now the answer. They said this is a great start and we're happy to do more. So I'll leave
Hmm.
it at that.
So I thought it was a good study, but it was 16 programmers. So
Yep.
um, I like the way they framed it. Um, I like the way they analyze it. I like their care with how to interpret the results. That's become you. It's probably irritating as an academic to have to explain what your results don't imply.
Good
But
point.
as
Yeah.
part of building a world where we want to be more fact-based, or we want to return to a world where we're more fact-based, it's almost now a burden on the part of the person who's sharing, especially knowledge or advanced knowledge,
Yeah.
to say, by the way, this does
Right.
not mean
Right.
that the United
A
States
really good point.
should own Greenland.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Or this is the counterpoint to everything that Sam Altman is saying. You should,
Yeah,
this is the end of the AI bubble. This one study is like, no, no, we're not saying any of that. The
it's
study
like
is the study.
we started off talking about hype, and that the way that they did that was kind of like a hype filter, a hype limiter.
Yeah, right. Well,
So it's
that's
cool.
a really good point. That's a really good point. And this is where I think we've talked about this, right? Is that the antidote to hype and the and how to make sense of things in this increasingly technological world. And one of the answers has to be finding research and sources that you can trust, right? And maybe this will start to be sort of a checklist that we can start saying, one thing that makes a resource trustworthy is when they can tell you what they don't know or what they didn't cover, right? And
You
what
know what?
assumptions they made.
You know what would be dope? Go find the scientific justification for everything that happens in our world today, just on a rolling basis, and make like a TV show about we ran the experiment again.
Yeah,
That's the whole point of the scientific method. You should be able
right.
to set up the exact same conditions,
Thank you. Yes,
put the same inputs in, show me the same outputs, or explain to me why they're different. That's what science is.
right. And that's the
And
difference between science and BS.
if you figure out a way to make that entertaining, you might mess around and help the world back to sanity, just playing around.
That's what, hey,
Anyway,
look, no, no, look, Spot. I keep coming back to the mission of tech doctors. That's why we're
yeah,
here. This is our attempt. We're trying to come around at this as many ways as we can.
right,
This format,
right,
long format. Maybe we'll have a TV show sometime. We'll rerun
yeah,
Express, right? We are
yeah.
trying to do this because it's really important. So actually, no, I'm glad we highlighted this study because you're right. There's so much goodness there, right? And actually, it's interesting because there's a counterpoint in Ars Technica article that I read afterward that was again that same old. We talked to eight guys, right? Eight
Yeah,
developers, and we asked them what they thought, right? And
yeah.
then they wrote down what they thought, and one guy goes, "Oh yeah, this is all. This is the wave of the future. If you're not using this, you're obsolete. And I use it every day. It makes me 10 times more effective." And somebody else was saying, "Well, it's not all that, but it'll be something." I mean, that same mix of just people talking, right? That
Hmm.
you go, "Dad, all right, I don't want to read articles like that anymore. It doesn't tell again, it doesn't tell me anything, right?
Well, it's the way we want to learn and think now is reinforcing what you already believe.
Yeah.
So, out of all that stuff, you'll find something that makes you go, yes, yes, what
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
saying the whole
right.
time.
Good, really good point. Yeah, we're all looking for confirming evidence, right?
Hmm.
We filter out anything that doesn't fit with our model. So Yeah, no, you're right. So
So regarding the article, I think it could be a little bit misleading because the case of open source developers trying to solve problems in a open source repository, there's a reason why I haven't done that work. Um, you got to, every little tiny bug you fix, you have to be a master troubleshooter if you're going to isolate that thing down properly to where you know you're actually getting at the solution.
really,
People that get good at that stay in that repository for decades.
okay.
And they mention that, 3,000 check-ins and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So um, I'm not sure that that is a use case where there's a high expectation of tremendous productivity improvement from a AI perspective because you're typically not inventing any new code.
Yeah.
Now, you've seen my projects. You know the kind of stuff I work on. Everything I do, I've never done before.
Hmm.
And if I have done it before, I don't need any help doing it again. Once I've discovered that Bootstrap template will give me a website that's beautifully responsive on a mobile platform,
Hmm.
I never ask that question anymore until somebody tells me that my Bootstrap template
Hmm.
doesn't work anymore.
Right.
I will keep using it over and over again. I don't ask
Right.
ChatGPT about that.
Right.
I ask ChatGPT about, I've never done an agent that goes and reads articles and summarizes them, and so help me figure out how I would approach that.
Hmm.
And
And I would add, but I think other people have. So tell me what's out there to help me do this. Because we know, right? ChatGPT is not coming up with this stuff. It's not original. It's not thinking, oh, let me think about this from scratch because I'm better at it. It's like, no, no, no. I have access to the entire web. Other people have done pieces of what you're trying to do. I'm really good at kind of putting that together and with a pastiche that you can guide me and I'll try to make it better for you.
you make this point a lot. Um, my reaction is it doesn't have to be original to be helpful.
Right. I'm not disagreeing, right? I mean,
It's
encyclopedia is not original, but it's incredibly helpful.
or Google for that matter.
Or Google, right? I'm saying I'm there. I'm not saying right. I'm there. By the way, when you said it's interesting that article again, they said we do not claim that our developers or repositories represent a majority or plurality of software development work. So
Right,
they agreed with
right.
your point, right? They said it.
No,
Yeah.
they were perfect in terms of context for their results. They couldn't have been better at that. But I'm trying to learn from it.
Mhm.
And you know that I probably have a higher expectation of a productivity employment, especially in the software space, than what this
Well,
article.
actually, you live it every day, right? Because I mean, you actually, this is the question you have to ask yourself, right? It's like, is your perception off, right? Because you can't afford to waste time, right? Your
No,
time.
you're right. You're right. Because when you sent me the article, what was I trying to figure out? Shit. I was mad when you sent me because I was like, Mike's timing could not have been worse. Oh,
Yeah, I don't
I
remember what
was
you were
so
working,
frustrated.
but you said this chat GPT is driving me crazy today.
I'm trying to remember what I was trying to do.
Uh-uh.
Um, it wasn't that. What was I doing? I don't remember what I was doing. I've been doing so much stuff lately. But I was just caught in the loop, and I realized, man, if I had just read the damn manual, I'd have figured this out a long time ago. Um, so it's the false confidence that it has, and so to the, I think we probably run out of time to get to what sort of the implications of this issue of being honest about the limitations of what you've done. Where we are, this is where I'm getting to with this stuff. Where we are today is a little bit embarrassing. Um, yeah, we're overhyped and underutilizing and um, all chasing the same use cases. Uh, And experimentation seems to mean I got a prescription with this one provider. Everybody jump in and try to get as much out of the prescription as possible. Um, but we're still extremely early with this technology. And because of, like you said, we're off on the wrong track in terms of understanding it as a human replacement as opposed to a really cool tool. When
Yeah.
we get to the point where we understand it as a really cool tool, when some really smart people start figuring out ways to use it that we hadn't thought of before,
Yeah.
those insights are going to turn this into something bigger than it already is, bigger than we can even imagine what it is right now. But it won't be based on human replacements. It'll be based on new capabilities that we haven't imagined before that will be very helpful to us.
Okay, we hope you enjoyed this first episode of Tech Doctors for 2026. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and join us for future episodes.